Just checking the mic. Yep. Looks good. So the way that I usually do this is I just record everything. I'll ask questions. If you kind of taper down in what you're saying, I'll try to ask another question related to what you were saying. You can speak for as long as you want, since it's all recorded, and I'll transcribe it later.
You edit it?
Not much. I mean, I edit it for very readability, but that's about it. I like for people to just start rambling about things if I can get them to do that. So. This part I'll probably put in parentheses, long pause. Oh, it's going in. This is what lets people know the real character.
MC Homeless frantically paces around his house for no reason at all. He just has to know where his keys are.
He remembers his keys exist. Okay, question 1. What is your name and where are you located in time and space?
My name is MC Homeless, and I'm located in Greenville, North Carolina, at my house. Funny enough, for being MC Homeless.
So you are MC Homeless. Where are you from originally?
Youngstown, Ohio, represent.
How old were you when you got out of there?
The first time, I think I was 23, and I moved to New Orleans to volunteer with the idea that I would skip one semester in school and then go back, and I just never went back. I came back for a few months and left, moved to North Carolina. Then I left North Carolina again and moved back 14 years later. I don't know why.
Why did you decide to move from Ohio to North Carolina?
I met Richard Benjamin Faulkner, and I was hitchhiking from New Orleans to Philadelphia to see a punk rock festival. And I had a friend in Chapel Hill, and I'm not going to say his name, but me and my crust punk traveling buddy went on some cross-state drug deals with him, marijuana to be specific. I mean, this was a long time ago, and isn't it legal now anyways? No, I don't think so. But I met Richard, and I can't incriminate him because he's dead, and he was involved with that, and we ended up in Greenville, North Carolina, and we just really hit it off, me and Richard. And he told me that there was a really cool music scene here and cheap rent. And if I ever needed someplace to live, he had a house. And I took him up on that offer. And 3 months later, I played a show with Future Islands on my second night here. And I was paying $80 rent in a house that's now demolished.
Nice. Who booked that show? Do you remember?
Jeff fucking Blender. My second night in town, and I'm playing with Future Islands, who now is won Grammys. I mean, they're definitely one of the most popular rock acts in the world, which is super wild. Super wild. Jeff fucking Blender.
How old are you now?
40 as of a month ago.
Hey, being alive's better than being dead. So that was a while ago. Were you booking shows using the internet back then? Or did you have to cold call people?
No, I definitely use the internet. I come from a punk rock background, and there was a website, Book Your Own Fucking Life. Do you know that one? BYOFL.org. So I booked some of my first tours off of that. And the Indie Rap Network and also like just weird experimental shit. I mean, I've cross-pollinated in so many different scenes, punk and hardcore, but like, yeah, the rap shit wasn't really popping off then. So I mean, I just networked with whoever found me, and I mean, I played with folk punk rather, noise, screamo bands, just whoever would have me.
And were you always a rap act?
Yeah, I mean, I've played in punk type bands, grindcore bands, stuff like that, but as far as touring and as far as what people know me as and as far as my actual music output that's heard by more than 10 human beings, I would say rap is the thing.
Who are some of the most interesting people you've collaborated with?
Definitely Kool Keith, just because he's such a weirdo. Like, truly, he's a weirdo. I think he's definitely like neurologically neurodivergent. I mean, I am too, and like I can just spot that shit. I'm like, you're one of us. You're one of us, dude, for sure. Like he's on a different level. Other people that have been interesting that I've collabed with. We haven't actually made music together, but the split 7-inch with Emotron, I feel like that's a good melding of worlds, and we were just like good friends instantly, and had that 7-inch idea maybe a few years later. Oh gosh, who else? I mean, P.T. Burnham's a super interesting musician, but like we both collaborated so early in our careers that I don't think either one of us were completely developed yet. Riddler of Project Blowed, who's like a person that brought freestyling, the art form of freestyling, to be a popular thing. Him.
Do you ever do freestyling, or do you mostly stick to scripted rap?
I freestyle, and for a long time, I consider myself a freestyle MC a lot more than like even a performing MC. Like I'm talking like not even freestyling on stage, but like freestyling in a smoky room with like some dudes at like 1 a.m. Just nobody sober. Nobody is gonna, record this or hear this or see this. Just like some in the moment, some Eckhart Tolle shit.
Oh, hell yeah. That's great. So you've definitely done a lot of traveling in your promotion and in touring. What are some of the more far-flung places that you've been to?
Oh my God. Russia, Ukraine, Belarus. Those are like the 3 wildest countries I've been to by far. I've played everywhere in the States, probably like 40 states. I played in Tijuana, Mexico, and Canada. I don't know if those are necessarily far-flung, but Europe, like, I don't know, 15 or 20 European countries, like Estonia and Latvia were pretty weird ones. Like, I'm definitely still Instagram friends with somebody from, Jesus, I hope he doesn't see this interview, either Estonia or Latvia, because he has a shirt I specifically made for that tour, and he just posted it up. But it's like the most shoddy MC Homeless shirt. It's just a fucking pentagram, and it says MC Homeless, like some shit I lifted off the internet and had a dude print in Germany. Like, that's, definitely generic.
So, how many recordings have you done? Do you think formal like albums? Would you say?
Funny enough, I'm not really an album guy, and I think it's because early on, I got into punk and hardcore, and it was all about 7-inches and EPs, and then there were rap singles. But I have a full-length album, Trapped Under an Ohio Sky. I have the full-length album 27, which I released on Milled Pavements. Besides that, I have another full length with this guy, Joey Alpha from Austin. And that might be it, but I have like countless cassette tapes and 7-inches and 12 inches and splits and EPs. And, I definitely model myself more off of the like DIY hardcore aspect of just putting all that out, keeping it short, fast, and loud.
Yeah. So when you're thinking about doing a recording, do you usually like start with a single and then maybe add a B side to it, or how do you approach that?
Yeah, lately at least. I can't really speak for like 10 years ago because I don't remember. But I would say, let's see, the last few things that I've done, I retired from rap for like 5 or 6 years. I didn't release anything, by the way.
What was that decision made for?
I was getting really sick of indie rap specifically, and I felt like the last few tours I did, and by few I mean like one or two, but I did, all right, so I toured with AC Alone, who's part of like Project Blow, like total legendary rapper, and I did a tour with Logic, another legendary rapper, and then I was like, well, where do I go from here? I moved to Austin, which was sort of like starting from square root. Is that even the saying? Square one. Starting from square root. So I'm like, shit, I want to tour. And I toured with my homie JT, who like kills it in like the fucking techno and noise scene now. JT Whitfield, shout out. But he was on that tour, but we booked it with this other rapper, JFF, and he booked most of the dates. And no shade towards JFF, but it just felt like we did the whole country, I mean, for like a month. And I mean, there was like no shows with more than 20 people there. It was like a real fucking bummer of a tour. And it was just like, it was all with rappers and it wasn't really my style of tour. And then I moved back to Austin and I booked this show at South by Southwest with a ton of indie rappers, and like it was really great. And after a while, I just felt like things were fizzling out. I felt like I saw an upward trajectory for like other people, but not myself in a way. So I wanted to step away, or I guess at the time I thought I'd just completely retire. I wanted to get more involved with punk and hardcore, and this is so silly, and I'm just going to say it in the interview anyways, but like I had this punk rock girlfriend at the time, and I just kind of wanted to like be more in that world. I don't know, like I just love punk rock girls. I know that sounds like ridiculous, but
no, it happens to everyone. So you've definitely mentioned punk and hardcore a lot in addition to indie rap. Would you say that you were exposed to the punk scene young back in Ohio?
Kind of. In high school, I started going to punk and hardcore shows. There's a band from Cleveland called Nine Chalks Tear, and they were like just totally influenced by like Japanese hardcore. People were setting off fireworks at the shows and doing like wrestling moves off of the fucking speakers and just like, you know, just being complete wild maniacs. And that really left an impression on me. And so I grew up in between Pittsburgh and Cleveland. So that was the Cleveland side. Pittsburgh was more like crust punk, fucking dreadlocks, patches, like anarchist political shit, which, you know, I also was influenced by that stuff as well. So it was really the best of both worlds. And I was just like that super fast hardcore, foreign hardcore, just that sort of thing, like Brazil or Japan or like Scandinavian shit, just like super wild.
So you're talking like a lot of basement shows and things like that, or were there venues around that would let them play?
Yeah, Cleveland and Pittsburgh totally are awesome for DIY venues. So there's a place that I believe is still going in Pittsburgh called Mr. Roboto Project, and that's where I went to see all of the punk and hardcore shows in Pittsburgh. Cleveland, there was a place called Speak in Tongues, which doesn't exist anymore, but it's a super legendary venue. In fact, a ton of noise people played there, and like there's a book about it. But there were other venues too, more just like for independent acts and stuff like that. Really great cities for independent music.
And what brought you down to Austin, Texas?
Boredom. I didn't realize what Austin, Texas was when I moved there. I had played South by Southwest a few times, and like anything was a big city to me. I lived in LA for like a few months, but like I grew up in Ohio forever. I lived in Greenville, North Carolina. And like, you know, like I said, I played South by Southwest. And then I had friends down there. And my friend Riddler from Project Blowed, amazing rapper. Blowed, Blowed. He had like a studio space in a house, and this was before Austin had the tech explosion or whatever the fuck is going on now. That like everybody and their mother wants to move there. So like he's like, I got like I just started crashing on the futon in this house, and like I didn't pay rent for the first few months or anything. Like worked as a telemarketer, but that's how I ended up. Is that what you asked me? How I ended up in Austin? Yeah, and then I stayed for 9 years. I never thought I would move away, and then like, oh my God, traffic is just nuts. Like, I love the traffic in Greenville. Anyone who says the traffic here is crazy is insane.
No, it's definitely a much smaller place here. So, you've recently turned 40 years old. In what way has your approach changed since you started as a rapper? Like, how would you say you've developed as a performer and as a writer?
As a performer and as a writer, I would say that I'm a lot more confident now. I know how to take control of an audience. I would say that there are audiences that just don't give a fuck, and they're just kind of like, no matter who you are, they're just sort of like not gonna get in the zone. Like, I don't know if they're shy or uncomfortable, or maybe they think I suck, but I really don't think so, because like I said, I'm pretty confident in my performances now. And I do, I interact with the audience. I've always just sort of, I've said it a million times already in this interview, but just influenced by the hardcore scene, just jump into the audience, get in people's faces, that sort of thing. But overall now, just confidence. I have more confidence about it.
Sometimes you're just on the wrong show, and it's up to you to kind of turn them or kind of like put them on your side. I've had that before too, where you're just on the wrong show and you gotta just push through and kind of, you know what I mean? Like,
You gotta keep going, and I've like thrown fucking tantrums before, and like I just like smash a glass, and all of a sudden I'm like booted from the venue and stuff. But
Sometimes you gotta put the audience in line, man.
yeah, I've definitely.
on the end of the day, that's the fun.
I've definitely done wild things at shows, and like people used to know me to like fight at shows, believe it or not. But I'm like pretty chill now. Like, I'm a fucking adult, and like I really don't want that reputation. But I used to be wild as shit. So like, other people that are wild as shit now, like, I get it. I've been there.
Yeah, I feel you on all that. I grew up in Asheville. Well, I was a teenager in Asheville when I was getting into music, and went to a lot of basement shows and stuff. And I definitely, one thing you mentioned that you did, the wrestling moves, we would always do that too, like hit each other with steel chairs in the pit and stuff like that. And yeah, I was much wilder when I was younger.
Protected your heads.
Well, if you hit just the middle, you're okay. If you know how to swing it.
I'll take your word for it.
Yeah. But speaking of which, I know you're really into wrestling. Has that tied into your rap at all at any point?
That's tied into my whole life. I feel like at times I've just tried to live like a damn wrestling heel. Like, I just want to be like Ric Flair. I'm like, I'm going to shit talk and fucking strut around like a damn peacock and just be ridiculous and over the top. And yeah, I've always been influenced by wrestling. I used to go to parties in Greenville, and I would bring 2 tiny bottles of champagne with me. And little did people know these were like $4 bottles of tiny champagne. And girls would be like, oh, is that expensive? And I'd be like, that's right. Only the finest for me. Woo! Yeah, totally. But just the performanceship, just being able to talk on stage and be able to interact and being able to read an audience. Super colorful personalities, like I'm not MC homeless all the time. Like during the Sex and Death era, which is an album I put out, I don't know, 5 years ago at this point, I like dressed up in black metal paint and like all leather, no shirt, with like swinging chains at the audience. And like, that's totally a pro wrestling character.
Yeah. You got that giant chain now too. That's very like, that could be something out of like a wrestling heel as well.
Yeah. Definitely. It's all about the flashiness with heels. It's like, I got this and you don't, jabroni.
Oh, my goodness. Okay. Let's talk about some of your recordings. You just mentioned Sex and Death. Was that a full length or was that a shorter cut?
It's 4 songs, but to me, I've always referred to it as a full length. Granted, Discogs refers to it as an EP. But to me, I said what I needed to say in 4 songs, and that album was kind of influenced by Nymphomaniac by Lars von Trier, which is like a 2-part movie, Nymphomaniac 1 and Nymphomaniac 2. So it's like, you know, I have side sex and I have side death. And I just didn't want to go off on the weeds about it. I was kind of just trying to, you know, have a message. It was a dark message. It kind of takes you through a journey, and it's super dark. Like, someone compared the album to Neurosis, and I'm like, all right.
Now, did it tell like a specific story, or was it more surrealistic?
I don't know what I would call it. It's about being obsessed with death and addicted to sex and just, you know, existing in this really dark place and kind of looking for hope, but just, you know, you're stuck between sex and death, life and death.
I see what you're saying now, because sex is reproductive, it's generative, it's life, and then death. I wasn't seeing them as opposites until you just said that, but now that I understand that much better. Now, what about your more recent recording, the one you did with Kool Keith? Did that have a theme to it or a through line for it?
Yeah. With Keith, and we have a few songs in the works, but I guess the only one that's out, I don't know when this interview is coming out, but Aliens is the one that's out, and I just talked to Keith. I was like, let's make a song about aliens, which is like, he's a sci-fi rapper through and through, you know. One of his many personas is, you know, Dr. Octagon, which is some intergalactic shit, yeah. And I just wanted to do something fun, something upbeat, where like people were just like super into it. And like we just did another one too, and it's called Monsters. So it's, you know, it's not exactly dark, but it's about monsters and, you know, Jason and Freddy and just creeping through the streets and having fangs and, you know, silly shit.
No, I love when songwriters use that kind of inspiration for things, because there's lots of inspiration that you could draw upon. There's like so many songs about love and so many songs about jealousy and so many songs about money and all these really big things in people's lives. But I also like it when people draw on like just this little left to center kind of strange little stuff too. And I know Kool Keith is known for Dr. Octagon, things like that. So outside of rap, do you have other art forms that you work on of any kind, or that have influenced you? You mentioned film. We mentioned Lars von Trier. Is there other art forms that influence you?
I don't know if you know about that. It's over there. So I made a movie called Destroy Cleveland. It's a documentary about the punk and hardcore scene from Cleveland, like 86 through maybe like 2002, 2004, something like that. Yeah, I did that movie. So I've always been. Oh, go ahead.
I was just gonna say. So tell me about it.
Yeah. So I had these friends that like sort of did just like homemade movie things, and I hit them up with an idea, and I just thought, oh, this is a movie we'll show at this punk bar once, with like 60 people there. And it just started to get super duper hyped up. Like before the movie was even out, I was interviewed by like Vice and The Guardian and all this shit. I was generating a bunch of hype online. But yeah, it's about just how wild these bands are and how influential and how unique Cleveland is. And I've done journalism as well. Yeah. Music journalism specifically. And yeah, doing the movie was... Ooh, I'm burping from this fucking beer. It was, it was a super wild journey. I mean, damn, yeah, I don't even know what else to say about it.
Did you end up? How did you gather information? Did you end up interviewing local bands? How did you?
Yeah. Like the biggest band is Integrity, so. And they were definitely a centerpiece for the film, and DeWitt actually agreed to be in the film, who's like an infamous character in hardcore, and like we were pretty tight for a while, and then had like a super falling out because he didn't like how he was portrayed in the movie. But it's like, dude, like I'm a journalist. My job is to show every side, not to make you look like a dark, mysterious fucking badass who nobody has anything bad to say about.
Yeah, it's a documentary. You're supposed to document whatever it is. Yeah, but people want you to be their promoter.
It was hard. I mean, the film was, I guess, I would say successful. It's not like it made me rich, but like I went and screened the movie in LA. We had like 600 people at the Cleveland premiere. I did a tour of New Zealand and Australia with it, Italy, Denmark, what was the other country? Italy, Denmark, Amsterdam. High on shrooms at the screening in Amsterdam. That was super fun. Like doing a Q&A, and I cannot tell where the voices are coming from. So yeah, I mean the film did relatively well, but like it really took a toll on me emotionally, and I've not done anything with film since. But I've done other stuff, podcasts, journalism. Yeah. I've done, you asked me what else I've done artistically or what else I'm interested in. I did music journalism, so, anything from reviewing albums and live shows to interviewing artists. I did a podcast, Rust Belt Hammer, so that was underground music and culture from the Rust Belt and beyond. So, like, musicians, filmmakers, wrestlers, VHS collectors, mostly centered on the Rust Belt, but also beyond. And that transformed into Rust Belt Hammer Presents Sex, Drugs, and UFOs, which was, what was the tagline for that? Shape-shifting, strippers, I don't even know I don't remember, but like we interviewed people who claimed to be abducted by aliens, people who saw Bigfoot, just all sorts of wild things. So that was super fun. So I've done that. And then I had a website, Rust Belt Hammer, for a few years. And it got swallowed by the internet. Something weird with foreign hosting. But I mean, I interviewed just some of the all-time greats and people who passed away, like Members of the Pagans, which is a band from Cleveland. And I mean, just like underground filmmakers, all sorts of.
In addition to rap, there seems to be a through line through a lot of this interview. Like, you're very proud to be from Northern Ohio. You like, like you seem somewhat committed to putting a spotlight on that area in particular. So please tell me about some people and things from that area.
Yeah, I'm a Rust Belter. I mean, no matter where I live, I feel like I'm from Youngstown, Ohio, and I represent Youngstown, Ohio very proudly. Even though Kid Rock is playing there in like a week, and I'm like, what the fuck is happening there? It's super embarrassing. Seriously. So yeah, it's just a really Northeast Ohio specifically, as well as other Rust Belt places like Gary, Indiana, where Michael Jackson is from, or Detroit or Buffalo. They're real rough places, and the weather sucks and the economy's depressed. So when you have those things going on, it creates character and grit. And I think a lot of that leads to, there's struggle involved, so it leads to creativity, whether, I mean, Andy Warhol is from Pittsburgh, so like any kind of art, and I mean, he's an influence on me for sure, but also like Lux Interior is from Northeast Ohio, from the Cramps, Stiv Bators from the Dead Boys, Devo is from Kenton, Akron, Ohio. I mean, all of that has just been Jim Jarmusch, he's from Akron, Ohio, the indie filmmaker. I could just keep going on. George Romero is from Pittsburgh. I mean, Vincent Gallo, even though like he's a piece of shit now and probably always was, but like he's Buffalo, and like he was super influential to me. Yeah, Buffalo 66 is so epic. It's so I don't know if it's supposed to be funny because he's such a fucking insane person, but it's hysterical. So yeah, I mean, totally. I love that area and I love the art from that area. I'm super proud to be there. Do I want to live there? I mean, not necessarily, but would I again? Maybe.
Winters are too hard, probably.
Oh God, the weather sucks. I love the South.
Yeah.
I love the South.
Me too. So I got a couple of questions left. Number one is, I want to see that documentary because I didn't. Every time I talk to you, or more appropriately, every time I listen to you, when you have a lot to say, it's like you unfold this scroll, and then there's just all these things that you've done and all these places that you've been. And I was like, I met you, and I knew that you were, you had a name for yourself in the indie rap scene, but you were just kind of like my neighbor Matt. Like, and then every time I talk to you, like oh my God, he's been everywhere in the world. He's made a documentary. So I just really appreciate you agreeing to sit down and talk to me about this. You're gonna be, if it's okay with you, you'll be on the cover, and
attention whore. Truly, that's the pro wrestler in me.
Hell yeah. And it'll be, I guess we're in April now, so it'll be May 1st that it comes out. It'll come out digitally on the website. Plus, I'll give you a print copy of it.
I'm into it. My single with Kool Keith, I think, comes out May 5th. Monsters on Spotify.
That's perfect. That's what I was going to say. Give me a rundown of like any links you want me to include, and also as many like good, like higher definition, better pics that you can give, so I could put throughout the,
Yeah, some of those. I'll search them right.
I'm sure you got a lot of touring that you've done, so I see someone's got good stuff. So please get me a copy. Well, not a copy, but tell me where I can watch that documentary about.
Yeah, definitely.
And then the final question I'll ask you, and it's the final question I ask everyone, is there anything I haven't covered that you would like to cover?
No, I don't think so, but I will say that one other influence that I totally didn't talk about in this interview that is extremely important to my art would be just like sort of lowbrow trash culture of the 80s and 90s. And I'm talking about, trauma movies, just gory movies, and weird cult classic type shit. A lot of that, just like toys, Frankenstein toys. I mean, I don't know if you see my collection room. I'll show it to you after this. But just like, I feel like I'm influenced by like ooze and slime, and if that makes any sense. Oh, big time John Waters. Big time John Waters. Oh yeah. I mean, if you name it and it's like trashy cinema, like that's a huge part of my life. Huge part of my life.
You took out all the pro wrestling toys.
Yes. Super into like toys and collectibles and like VHS art that's just like a fucking vat of toxic waste and like a woman in a bikini with a fucking Uzi and stuff like that. That aesthetic.
Got you. Well,
Cool.
I think we're good.
Yeah, hell yeah, appreciate it.
Thanks, man. That was nice.